Hello, and welcome to the Empowering Family Caregivers Show, brought to you by eCareDiary.com. I'm John Mills, your host and co-founder of eCare Diary. Today is July 22nd, and we're going to talk about coaching for caregivers and the elderly. We're very excited to have with us Paula Grooms.
Hi, John.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Sure. Nice to be here.
Paula is a certified life coach and senior care consultant, helping elders navigate the challenges of aging. She is certified as a life coach by the Certified Coaches Federation. She has worked for more than 15 years in social services, including 6 years as a supportive counselor for caregivers and the elderly. And you can find out more about Paula at www.carecoaching.net. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much.
This is such an important topic, as we were just discussing, and I was the primary caregiver for my father who suffered from Parkinson's disease, and I really wish that I'd known about caregiver coaching then. But I'd like to kind of get into our questions. Until quite recently, caregivers and the elderly had only a few options, such as counseling or support groups, in order to get help with their journey in being a caregiver. So perhaps you could start off by telling us a bit about coaching and how it works.
Okay. Interestingly enough, the term coach began as early as 1830 at Oxford University as a slang for a person who carries a student through an exam. And I like that image because it really connects with especially caregivers and the elderly in terms of the work that I do, which is to help carry them through the tests that they inevitably go through in this journey of caregiving and aging as well, because when we reach those stages of either becoming a caregiver or aging ourselves with the difficulties that involves, there are inevitably things that are new and uncharted, and having someone who knows about the different facets of it and can coach you along can really be helpful.
Yeah, no. As I just said, I wish I'd known more about it. And I think, as we were discussing before the show, so many people, when they become caregivers, it's the very first time, and they don't really know what to do or where to turn. So I think that the coaching is just a terrific thing. You mentioned that most folks seek counseling. This is one of the only options that's available for them. And I actually got counseling while I was caring for my father.
Okay.
How does being a coach differ from going and talking to a counselor?
It's the counseling focuses on the past and on the why of things. That's how counselors are trained. Coaching focuses on the now and the how of things, and it's a bit different in that when you're in something that's going on right now, it's especially caregiving and or aging as well, that there's not any real reason to focus on the whys. It just is, and it can be unfortunate in terms of someone in a loved one becoming ill or what have you, that focusing on real solutions and now and how to make things happen that are going to be desirable and more helpful is really great. And that's how coaching differs, in that counseling is, or let me put it this way, caregivers and aging folks don't need treatment. They need somebody to kind of guide them through with the skills and the innate capabilities they already bring to the table, and just adjust those to make this journey of caregiving and or aging a little easier.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And having gone through counseling, I wouldn't say I went through the traditional form of counseling. It was a little bit more. It was almost like venting about sort of what I was going through and how to cope with it. So I could see how coaching could be so much more useful in terms of helping people through this journey.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what about support groups for caregivers? Talk a little bit about that and how they work.
Yeah, well, support groups are great. I ran 4 groups for weekly for 5 years. 2 groups for spouses and 2 for adult children caregivers. And, they're really wonderful in that they're supportive. The groups I ran were weekly. The problem for most caregivers across the country We're lucky here in New York that we have a lot available to us and in a kind of confined space, and people can get to groups. But there aren't many groups available necessarily across the country that are viable for caregivers to get to. They're very spread out, and it's also that they have to be at a certain place at a certain time. And for many caregivers, that's also an issue because their own time is truncated, their personal time, and a lot of times they need to talk about something that might be going on sooner than a week, or many groups it's only once every 2 weeks or once a month. As a coach, I go to people's offices or homes, but 75% of my coaching is done over the phone. Yes, so I have clients as far away as Denver. It really can be done now with phones the way they are. Even maybe Skype is in the future for me as well. That it can be done at the best time for the caregiver, and when they need it. So I think that support groups are wonderful in conjunction with something that's personalized for a caregiver, because many times they need real-time solutions and with something that comes up right away.
No, that makes total sense, and I'm thinking about my own personal experience. My father was suffering from Parkinson's, and there were Parkinson's support groups, but they were never at convenient times for me.
Right.
And so the idea that you can speak by phone at a convenient time to a caregiver coach really makes a lot of sense. What do your clients like most about coaching and the coaching experience? What kind of feedback do you get?
Well, I think what they most enjoy is that it's solution focused. So when my clients start to link solutions with different thoughts, maybe different behaviors, certainly, and different activities to the payoffs they're getting, it's really an enjoyable process, because it's, again, we're not just venting or going on the whys of things. We're coming up with some really tangible ways to address whatever is going on. And in coaching, there's a phrase, and it is, what you focus on, you get more of in life. So by focusing on what is working and what could work in the future, it's a more positive experience. So people enjoy that.
Most of the people that you're dealing with are dealing with degenerative conditions.
Yes.
So they're Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer. Do you find that as the diseases progress and they require more care, that they require more coaching and they seek out more coaching?
Well, depending, I deal with either the caregiver who is dealing with someone with those diseases, and as it progresses, different things come up. And as you as a caregiver, you know that along the trajectory of the illness, at first there's a shock. There's with the diagnosis that presents its own unique issues. There may be some from the person you're caring for, there may be some issues as not wanting care or not wanting help, resisting and not wanting to depend on a family member. There's all facets and things that happen that can cause anxiety and stress for the caregiver. So with each stage, I think there are different issues that come up. Now, in dealing with people who have the diseases themselves, the elderly person, obviously I wouldn't be coaching anyone with Alzheimer's necessarily. At the very, very beginning, when there's just a diagnosis, it can be helpful. But many times, depending on my initial interaction with someone, I might refer them to someone in counseling, perhaps, as that might be more of a time for some very serious grief work or that kind of thing. So it's dependent on each individual.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. You talk about the stages. There are so many of them, and the needs do differ.
Yes.
There is very much this shock that people get when they first find out that they're ill, or as we like to call it, there's that 3 a.m. call, which is where a lot of people become caregivers because mom or dad has fallen or things along those lines. So it really is one of those things you do get shocked into, and then you've got to kind of figure out how to navigate.
Right. And that's when, you know, someone might be calling me. And that's a great time to give me, not at 3 a.m.
No, I know. No, I know.
But seriously, that I offer any caregiver or elderly person, anyone who's thinking that this kind of work, the coaching might be beneficial to them, a 30-minute free phone consultation to see if it might work for them and how it might work, because people are going to have questions, you know, which I understand. So that can be very helpful to see if it is going to be something. And also, differing from traditional counseling or what have you, it doesn't have to be weekly. It doesn't have to be a set amount of time. It can be as needed. Normally, I people that I see weekly, and then people I see once every month, and then people who I call me, phone consultations as needed when crises come up. So normally, if someone calls me for that initial consultation, I can get back to them within a few hours most of the time, because it is normally at that crisis time. And if not, at minimum within 24 hours.
Great. So we have one more question here to wrap up. So if someone were to have further questions, could they contact you and discuss the problem or inquire about coaching? How would they go about doing that?
Yes. I have a number, a toll-free number, 877-974-0008. Or my website, which is listed, I know, in front of me, carecoaching.net. So, as I said, that will be the time to call for the 30-minute consultation. It's completely complimentary, and anyone that has questions about it or just has questions about what to do in a certain caregiving situation, they're absolutely free to give me a call.
That's great. No, I think what you're doing is terrific.
Thank you.
As I said, I wish I had known about it when I was dealing with my father's illness 4 or 5 years ago. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This is terrific information for our viewers. I also want to thank the audience for joining us. To learn more about future shows, sign up for our newsletter at ecarediary.com. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks.